What's up, everybody? Once again, my name is Matt, and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. In the last episode, we traveled around the Lanayru desert and found all 3 power nodes so that we can activate the generator and open up the way to the next temple, which is, of course, the Lanayru mining facility. So in this episode, without further ado, we're going to take on the next temple of the game. Should be interesting. Let's get into it, guys. Alright, so here we are inside the Lanayru mining facility. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice this temple is kind of drab, like, not really too interesting. It does have some cool mechanics later on, and those are kind of like this temple's saving grace, but, still, I just don't think this temple is all that great. Hey, got ourselves another jelly blob, though, not too bad. But, as I've said before, like, Skyward Sword does have some of the best temple design in like any Zelda game, so I mean, being on the lower end of that spectrum is still not like the worst thing in the world. Anyways, the beginning of this temple is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time explaining what to do since it is pretty obvious stuff. Instead, I want to address something I've been getting asked a lot in my recent live streams, which, by the way, if you're unaware, for like the past month or so, I've been live streaming Twilight Princess HD right here on YouTube on Saturdays at about like 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So shameless self-promotion aside, one of the more common questions in the chat that I see is, you know, Matt, why do you hate Skyward Sword? And that's really kind of an unfair question because I don't hate Skyward Sword. Like, if I hated this game, I would not be doing this Let's Play. Now, that doesn't mean I think Skyward Sword is a perfect game. In fact, I think it's far from it. But I feel like far too often people associate minor criticism with like full-blown hate, especially when it comes to video games. And I think that stems from like a form of buyer's remorse too, because video games are a pretty expensive form of media. So when you spend like $60 on a game, you want to know you've made a good purchase, and when someone says something negative about it, naturally, like, people get defensive, regardless of, like, if that statement was personal or not. And I've sort of realized that while doing YouTube for so long, because I used to do it too. Like, I would argue with people in the comments or on gaming forums before I realized that, you know, it's kind of pointless. Like, everyone has their own opinions, and that's totally fine. So what I'm trying to say is that, the problems I have with Skyward Sword are my own personal feelings towards the game. Like, I know a lot of you guys said this was your favorite Zelda game, and I can totally accept that. And I hope you guys can accept that, like, my criticisms and opinions aren't aimed at you specifically. They're aimed at the game and not, like, you know, anyone in particular. So, when I give you guys my opinion of the game, I'm doing it from, like, my personal feelings towards the game, and I'm also trying to be, like, as objective as I possibly can. That being said, to answer the question, I don't hate Skyward Sword. I think it's a great story, fantastic music, and amazing temples. Now, on the flip side, I do dislike the fact that the controls aren't perfect. The game itself is a little bit repetitive, and you will see that later on. The sky feels kind of empty, and the pacing of the story could be better, and of course, you know, find the tutorials are somewhat of an annoyance. Now, I could get into this more, but I know some people don't like it when I'm, like, overly negative, so if I do talk about this topic more, it might be in, like, a separate video. That is, of course, if, like, anyone actually cares enough to listen to me talk about this for an extended period of time. But, yeah, as a quick rundown, that's basically what I think of Skyward Sword, and the only thing that really upsets me is that this game has so much potential, and honestly, I think if they fix those minor aspects that I just mentioned, it would probably be my favorite Zelda game, even over Wind Waker, which, to me, is the best Zelda game, so that should say something right off the bat. Anyways, back to the temple at hand. This temple is actually one of the first longer temples in the game, and, there's a lot of backtracking, and I think that's one of the reasons why I sort of dislike the temple, because you guys know I just don't like backtracking. Like, it's not really my cup of tea. So we will be coming back to this room specifically in just a little bit because it's fairly important. But for now, we're gonna make our way into what I like to consider the main hub room of the temple. Like, maybe you would think that room was just because you come back to it, but you come back to this room way more often. So, first things first, really the only thing we can do in here is use our beetle to grab this conveniently placed bomb flower and bring it right over to where these wooden boxes are. Now, obviously, these boxes are, like, on top of this platform, blocking that ladder, but thankfully, we can blow them up with a bomb and get access to that platform and the ladder. And it just so happens that something we need is right up that ladder. So, of course, let's jump the gap and get up there as fast as we possibly can. Get rid of these bats as well, and now we are free to open up this chest, which contains, wait for it, it is the first small key of the temple. Pretty exciting stuff. Now, you probably saw this ladder. Believe it or not, we cannot go up there just yet. That box is sort of blocking our path. Like, we could climb the ladder, but, we would not be able to stand on the platform. We can move that box later on to create a shortcut back to this room, but it's really not for, like, making any progress. Now that we have this small key, let's go back to the room we were just in, and that's where we need to go to actually make a little bit of progress. And that is something I will give to this temple. Like, it's less linear, or at least it feels less linear than the previous two temples. And that could just be because there is that small element of backtracking. So I think I can accept that little bit of backtracking that is in this temple if it means like a less linear experience. Alright, so in this room we got some new enemies, and these guys are kinda cool. It's these weird pufferfish guys, so when you get close to them, yeah, they do spike up. If you hit them with your sword, it'll send them flying in the opposite direction, and if they hit a wall, they will explode, so you can use them as bombs, or to, like, kill enemies that are hanging onto the wall like those guys back there. So they do have some use, but like 9 times out of 10, they're probably just gonna, like, get in your way, so I recommend just, like, taking them out as fast as you can. That way you can move on and do something better. Of course, you can still use your normal bombs to, you know, blow up anything that those pufferfishes would blow up for you. So not that big of a deal, like if you send them in the wrong direction or miss your target whenever you want to explode something. Now, before we go up that ladder, what you want to do is grab your beetle and aim it towards this bomb flower, because we cannot get to the top of that ladder just yet. Like, there is a wooden crate that would sort of prevent us from reaching the top of that platform. So, of course, we need to take this bomb right over to that wooden crate and drop it right on top of it. That way, we can clear that blockage and reach the top of that platform where that switch is, because that switch is going to introduce us to the major gimmick of this temple. It's actually one of my favorite temple gimmicks in this game, believe it or not. It really is like the only saving grace of this temple for me, because it's pretty stinking sweet. Obviously, like, Timeshift Stones themselves are not new, but the one inside this temple does change things quite a bit. So let's just ram right into this, and bam, there you go. Check it out. This entire area becomes a whole heck of a lot cooler, like way more colorful. We got some new enemies. The music changes. Like, oh man, I kind of wish the entire temple was just like this all the time. Anyways, we got ourselves some Beamos here. So Beamos, you fight them a little bit differently in this game. Like, you don't just throw bombs at them like you would in previous Zelda titles. Instead, what you want to do is slice them horizontally at like that blue sort of stripe, which is their weak point. And then once you chop them down low enough, you can stab them in the eye. Like, you will see Beamos eventually that are like maybe 2 or 3 pillars high, but these ones right now are only like 1 pillar high. So yeah, just 1 horizontal slice and a stab, and that'll take them out. Like, I used to be really bad at fighting those guys too. Like, I don't know, sometimes the motion controls don't exactly work when you go for the stab, and I think they do like a full heart of damage with those lasers, so it can be kind of problematic. But I think I've actually gotten better at like fighting them. Honestly, like, this is kind of weird, guys, but this time around, like, playing Skyward Sword, I haven't had too many issues with the motion controls. Like, I've had a few here and there, but not as many as like I remember having, you know, when I was playing this game like 4 years ago. And I think, like, this is gonna seem like a really dumb reason, I think one of the reasons why I'm having like a better time is because the lighting in my room is different. Like, I have a much better lighting setup in my room than I did when I first played this game. So I have no idea if that like affects anything whatsoever, but when I play with like my really bright lights on, I don't really have any issues, which is kind of weird. So I'm not sure if like this is a real solution, but if you are having trouble with the motion controls, like try adding more lights. Maybe that will help you out. Again, not sure. Maybe it could be like a placebo effect, but it seems like when I use my bright lights, I don't have like too many issues with my motion controls not working. Anyways, so let's head up these stairs because we need to find a way to unlock this door. Also, look at all those things like on the wall that are moving around. Like, I don't know, man. This temple has really nice aesthetics, like when it's back in the past. It's one of the reasons why I love it so much. Like, there's so much going on. It's way more interesting, and hopefully... Oh, no, this is not a good time to be here. Yeah, I was hoping, like, maybe we could, you know, sneak around this guy, but sadly... he hit us with his laser. Not a big deal though, because we chopped him down and now he is gone. So let's pull this switch and unlock the door. So yeah, like this Timeshift Stone that we hit in this room only affects like this room. So they're either like by a per room basis, or sometimes I think there will be some rooms where they only like do a small portion, just like they do, you know, when you're outside in the desert. So keep that in mind, like, as you're going through these various different rooms. Now, here's the thing. This temple really doesn't have a mini-boss, which is odd because the previous two temples did have mini-bosses. But, this is the room where we are going to get the item from this temple. And as you guys can see, yeah, there's no, like, giant, strange, unique enemy. There's no separate room that does contain, like, a mini-boss. It's just really a straight shot to the chest that contains the item, which is not a bad thing. Like, I'm not complaining about that. I figured I would mention that though, just because it is a little bit different than the previous two temples. But yeah, you just want to jump across these blocks, make your way to the other side of the room, like opposite of where you entered, and that's where you'll find this lovely little ladder that will conveniently take us right to the chest that contains the item from this temple. Also a pretty broken item in Super Smash Bros. 4. It is the Gust Bellows. Now, the Gust Bellows is very similar to the Gust Jar from Minish Cap, you know, if you're familiar with that game and that item. Although it works a little bit differently in Skyward Sword. So let's check this thing out. First and foremost, the Gust Bellows, instead of like blowing out, you know, one burst of air, it'll continually blow out air as long as we hold down the A button to, you know, blow. So it's pretty useful. It also has like a lot of versatility. So we can use it to, you know, blow off sand and discover items that way. We can blow off various different enemies, and there are like Gust Bellows switches. Like, remember that Pinwheel Switch we saw back in the Elden Province? That's actually for the Gust Bellows. So yeah, there's a lot of versatility to this item, a lot of functionality in the game, and I think Nintendo did a really good job like creating it. It's actually really fun to use. Anyways, before we move on, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I saw a chest down here, so I'm fairly certain that this one is completely optional, but let's see what's inside anyways, just because, you know what, it might be rupees or some random collectible. Yeah, it's a blue bird feather. Alright, not bad. I'm pretty sure that brings our total up to 3, all of which we have gotten from, like, random chests that we found inside dungeons, so that's pretty cool. Like, we still have yet to actually get a blue bird feather from an actual blue bird, but I'm sure we'll get one later on down the line. Really not that big of a deal. Anyways, let's get out of this room, shall we? That way we can continue on with the rest of this temple. I kind of want to get this guy sort of out of my way if I can. So, what did he actually hit? Like, they have to run into something to explode. Like, unless he randomly hit, like, the edge of this, platform, I'm not really sure how he exploded. And no, I guess I can't, like, blow those guys off, the wall when they're hanging on like that. That's kind of weird. I thought I could. Oh, well, whatever. Not that big of a deal. Before we go up that ladder, let's actually come back here and create a shortcut by just like moving this block. Might not be useful, but you might as well do it while you're here just to save yourself some time later on if you do ever come back to this room. Let's head up here though, and guess what? It's the hardest puzzle of all to solve. All we gotta do is just hold down the A button. That way we can blow away all this sand and, you know, send it like into the air. That would be really annoying. Like, imagine standing next to that giant pile of sand, just like blowing it up into the air and then breathing that in. Like, that would drive my allergies absolutely insane. Anyways, now we're back in like the main hub room. So here's that box that was blocking that ladder. Now we can move it out of the way, and we have a shortcut back into that room, you know, if we ever want to go back there for whatever reason. But now that we got the Gust Bellows, let me real quick take care of this electric bat. There we go. As I was saying, now that we have the Gust Bellows, we need to make our way back into the room where we use the small key because, yeah, as weird as it is, like, the hub room is really just used as a hub. Like, you come back here, there's not, like, much progress to be made in that room right now. Like, we will eventually go and explore the rest of that room, but, as for right now, it just serves as, like, a gateway to get back to, like, this room. And I think this is, like, where a lot of people get turned around in this temple, because, you know, after you get the item, like, you don't really think to go back to, like, this room, because it's so early on in the temple, and, you go through so much, like, get the small key, then go through this door in this room, get the item, and, then have to come back here. Really doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I know it definitely confused me when I was first, like, playing through this temple. So as long as, like, you're aware that there is, like, this second door that you need to unlock by, putting the block on top of that switch, you should be alright. But, it can be a little bit confusing if you sort of forgot that as you were, like, going through the temple. Anyways, though, let's head through this door and see what's waiting for us on the other side. This room's actually pretty cool. Not right now, but, like, you know, once we find the Timeshift Stone, it becomes a lot cooler. So, we're gonna try and find that, like, ASAP if we can. Ooh, that was a little bit close. Yeah, these pufferfish guys can be kind of annoying in this room, so it's better to try and, like, you know, knock them into a wall to cause them to explode. Sadly, I was unable to do it, but, yeah, as you guys can probably tell, the Gust Bellows has a pretty long range, which is kind of awesome. Also, make sure you stun these guys, because, you do need to run across this sink sand, and those guys will try to attack you, and if they do latch onto you, they could slow you down, and you may end up, like, sinking in the sand, which obviously is not a good thing, so be very wary of that. We should be safe to cross now, because we killed them all, so, yeah. There's really not a whole lot to do in this room until you activate the Timeshift Stone, which is thankfully right in the corner, but let's see if we can blow this guy up. There we go. See, that's all I was trying to do, just cause him to explode. We actually blew him up in, like, both senses of the word. Like, we caused him to explode, and we blew him, like, right up into the air, so that's pretty funny. Alright, let's actually uncover this Timeshift Stone, and let me get rid of this guy very quickly. Come on, there we go. And now, let's go back to the past, because things are way cooler. Only 90s kids remember. You know, I actually really hate that saying. Like, I myself am a 90s kid. I was born in, 93, but, I just think that saying is so dumb. Like, I don't know, it makes no sense, really. It's like, oh, if you weren't born in the 90s, you had a terrible childhood, you know? It's like, if you weren't born in the 90s, you're not gonna know, like, this really well-known cartoon series, or, you know, really popular band, or you won't recognize this random obscure image from the 90s. Like, I've actually seen posts like that that are like, only 90s kids will remember, and it's like a post of something so obscure, even me as someone who was born in the 90s, I have no idea what it's even talking about. Anyways, regardless, there's a chest over here, so let's open it up and get ourselves a nice monster horn. So yeah, like, completely optional. And, you know, I really do not trust myself to make this diagonal jump back to that platform. So I'm gonna be a loser and just, push this back towards myself. That way I can climb up here normally. But, yeah, that whole stupid, like, 90s kids, 80s kids thing, pretty stupid. Like, I hate that trend so much. Anyways, though, enough about that. Now that we have the Gust Bellows and we're back in the past, check it out. There is a Pinwheel Switch above this door. So, if we take our Gust Bellows and just, you know, blow air at this Pinwheel Switch, eventually, it's going to completely open up this gate for us and allow us access to the other side of this room. That's basically how all those Pinwheel Switches do work. So it takes a couple of seconds, and, like, you gotta hold down the A button, but really, it's not that big of a deal. It's actually kind of fun. Alright, so there is actually a new enemy in this room. It's that weird, like, floating orb thing. Now, these guys are really annoying to fight, but I will fight this guy just to show you what it's all about. So, once they notice you, they will probably try and shoot a rocket at you. Now, ideally what you want to do is, yeah, like, swing your sword at it, that way you can reflect it back and deal damage. These things take 2 of those rockets to actually kill them. But normally after you hit them with 1 rocket, they're going to send out these little tiny orbs, and then you gotta, like, slice at them with the correct horizontal or vertical slice, and then they will go back into their phase where they shoot missiles at you. So, yeah, it takes a really long time to fight them, but after you do take them out, they will explode into a ton of rupees, and sadly a majority of those, like, fell into the endless pit, so that really wasn't like the best area to fight that guy. But yeah, they're kind of annoying to fight, but they do give you some nice rewards if you do take the extra time to take them out. Although for the most part, I'm probably going to try and avoid them if I can, just because I really do not find fighting them all that enjoyable. You know, at this point, I'd probably say we're like maybe halfway done with this temple. Like, that is one thing that is kind of weird about this temple. Like, they give you the item really early on, and there's no mini-boss, but the temple itself is like paced very differently than a normal temple. So I think like now we're probably about halfway done, but we're about to get an item that you would expect to get really early on. You'll see what I mean in a second. For now though, let's just of course start activating the switch. That way we can move on into the next room. Like, it would make more sense if you know, the item that we're about to get they gave you before the Gust Bellows, and then like this is where you would get the Gust Bellows, because then like the pacing would be more in line with like other Zelda temples. But whatever, not that big of a deal. And gosh dang it, man, that was totally not what I wanted to do, but whatever. Hey, we actually got the diagonal slice though. Not bad at all. And are you gonna like fight me, dude? Come on. Hello? What is going on with this guy? He like does not even care whatsoever. Well, that was kind of weird. Like, he just completely ignored me. I really have no idea what was wrong with that guy. Whatever, I'll take it. Anyways, let's just blow off all this sand and get rid of this crab guy. That way we don't need to deal with him anymore. And now let's just push this block into position. Honestly, this room is pretty straightforward. There will be a new enemy once we activate the Timeshift Stone, so that's pretty cool. But the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. I think there is maybe one collectible underneath one of the sand piles in like this upper area, although I'm not exactly sure which one it is. So I guess we can just like check them all out very quickly and see whatever that collectible is. So, sand pile number 1, what you got? A heart. Alright, nothing too important. Let me guess, sand pile number 2 is rupees? Nope, that's an enemy. So, yeah, it's probably in the sand pile all the way in the back there. Is it really worth it? I have no idea. Let's go and find out. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's like an amber relic, so yeah, probably not worth it. But, you know, it's an amber relic, so might as well go and grab it. So, yep, there it is. Nice, shiny amber relic, just covered by some sand. Not too bad. Wow, we got 11 of those things? Holy crap, that is a lot. Yeah, you know, if I knew we had like that many, I probably wouldn't have wasted all that time going to grab that. But whatever, I mean, I guess we can use it to upgrade some stuff later on. For now, though, let's just head over to the chest and actually blow the bigger sand pile, because guess what? Yeah, there's where the Timeshift Stone is hiding, so we can just take our slingshot and hit it right through this gate and send this entire area back in the past. And that's where we'll find this guy. So, it's a very unique enemy to fight. It involves using both your sword and the Gust Bellows, and that makes it a little bit more tricky since, you know, switching between the two is not exactly easy to do like on the fly. But basically what you want to do is just like hit those spindles, then when his mouth is fully opened up, you can either chop the crystal switch on his tongue and stab the one, you know, inside his mouth. Now, if you're quick enough, you can actually do it all at once, but sadly, I was too slow, and gosh dang it, dude, will you please just, you know, chill out for like 2 seconds so I can open up your mouth and stab you inside that crystal switch. Alright, there we go. See, they're not really supposed to be that hard to fight. Like, they're pretty easy enemies. I was just a little too slow on my stabbing. But yeah, defeating that guy will unlock the doors and allow us access to the chest. And the chest contains something really important. So this one you do not want to skip. Inside this chest, we got ourselves, wait for it, the dungeon map. Yeah, it's kind of weird that like they waited until you got this deep in the temple to give you the map, because from the looks of things, like there's only 2 or 3 rooms left. Like, don't worry, there's still a lot to do inside this temple, but they wait until very late to give you that map. Like, they really make you work for that one. Anyways, now that we got that, guess what? we are actually back inside the main hub room. So first things first, let's actually create this shortcut back to, like, the very beginning area. And now, like, we can access pretty much every area of the hub room. So we will go and explore the rest of this room in the next episode. So if you guys enjoyed this part, a like rating would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. But once again, guys, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.